Okay, so today we're going to be talking about mean. What is the mean? So let me come up with a definition. I'm just going to call this is the act of making everything. We could be talking about things. So everything or everyone. We could be talking about people equal. So mean is the act of making everything or everyone equal. All right, let's talk about this in an example. Let's make this a little more understandable. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about money. Let's say we have a person that walks in and that person has $7. And then there's a second person that walks in, and that person happens to have $10. Then we have a third person that walks in, and that person has $1. So we see they all have different amount of money, but we want to make them equal. So we're going to make the mean out of it. And another word for mean is average. So since we want all of them to have the same amount, first of all, let's see how much money we have. So I'm just going to add the money. I'm just going to go 7 plus 10 plus 1. And that gives me 18. So we have $18. So I added how much money we have. But I want to divide it evenly. So I'm going to divide this, my 18, let me divide this by 3. And the reason why I'm going to divide it by 3 is because there's 3 people. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So if I was to make the average, I'm going to say each of them has $6. Notice how I made them all equal. $18. There were $18 altogether, and I made them all equal. So to get the mean or get the average, whichever word you want to use, just add the numbers and then divide it by how many you have. So let's take a look in something like this. Find the mean of each data set. So we have a bunch of numbers here. I'm going to use a calculator to solve this. Now I'm going to add all my numbers. So I'm going to go 13 plus 13 plus 17 plus 13. So I'm going to add them all up. I type in them on a calculator and I happen to get 253. Say I added all my numbers. I noticed there's 15 numbers total because I counted how many numbers. I have 15. So I'm going to divide this by 15. And I press enter on my calculator and it tells me 16.86666 on and on and on. Now, the numbers continue forever. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to round it to the nearest hundredth. So that means 2 decimal places. I'm going to stop at the second decimal place. However, I do take a look at the number that comes after. So in this case, the third decimal place. If my third decimal place is 5 or more, which is the case, it pushes this 6, my last number, it pushes it up. So my answer will be 16.87. Now let me take a look at my example here, 3. So I'm going to add my numbers. 1,235 plus 960 plus 1,435, on and on. Once again, I'm going to use a calculator to do this. So I'm going to add all my numbers. So 21,705. Like I said, I added all my numbers. And I'm going to divide this by how many I have. I count the numbers. There's 16 numbers in there. So in this case, I'm going to divide this by 16. I type it on my calculator and I get 1,356.563. My third decimal place is too small. So my answer will be 1,356.56. Another way we can get data, because this is just a table. You guys see a table, just a list of numbers. Another way we can get some data is this type of list. We call this a table. I'm just focused on my numbers. The substance, That is just what we're measuring. I'm focused in this case for the number. So I'm going to add my numbers. 327.5 plus 1,668 plus 0 plus 63.4, on and on. And I happen to get, right, I type it on my calculator, and I happen to get 14,990. Let me divide this by how many numbers we have. There happen to be 16 numbers. According to my calculator, I have 937.187. I know there's more numbers on my calculator, but I'm actually going to stop at only 3 decimal places. So this one, it's 5 or more. So that one's going to push my 8 one up. So I'm going to call this 937.19. If my third decimal place is big enough, which is 5 or more, it pushes my previous number 1 up. All right, let's take a look at number 5. I'm comparing the Summer Olympics medals in 2012. I have some countries and I see how many medals they have. I'm interested only in the number. So I'm going to add my numbers. 17 plus 4 plus 13 plus 18 plus 38, on and on. I have the use of a calculator in here. So I added all my numbers and I happen to have 333. Let me divide this by how many I have total. There's 16 numbers here. So let me divide them by 16. According to my calculator, I have 20.812. My third decimal place is too small, so I'm going to ignore this. So I'm going to call this 20.81. Another way you're going to find data is with dots. Notice I have a line, starting in this case from 34 to 74. Now, my first number is 34. This number is 34. My second number is 37, because look, it's right in between 36 and 38. So that is what I call 37. Then I have 44. I have 49, 50, 52, 54. Now here, 56, I have this. So I'm going to consider 56 twice and on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add my numbers. So let me figure this out. So I have to do 34 plus 37 plus 44. I'm going to add all these numbers. And I happen to get 884. Like I said, I added all my numbers. Now, I count how many dots there are, and there's 16 of them. So let me divide this by 16. 884 divided by 16. The calculator gives me 55.25. It's already 2 decimal places, so that is what I'm going to type in my answer. Now let's take a look at my question number 7 here. My numbers, if you see the numbers, I have a 4, I have 5 twice, I have 6 3 times, and then I have 7 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now let me add them all up. 4 plus 5 plus 5 plus 6 plus 6. All right, let me add all my numbers. I'm using a calculator to do this a little bit easier. So I'm going to add all my numbers, and I happen to have 95. Now let me divide this. Let me divide this by how many numbers total. I count how many dots there are. There's 15 of them. So let me divide this by 15. According to my calculator, I'm have 6.333. My third decimal place is too small. When I say too small is 4 or less, it is too small. So my answer is 6.33. Another way you can see some data is with graphs. What I have here information. So in this case is both of them are about basketball tournaments. Here at the bottom, I'm talking about some schools. But here on the left, I'm talking about appearances. Appearances at tournaments. Notice how each line we can say goes by 2. Right? There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So it seems like each line goes by 2. So looking at my first number, notice how it is between 2 and 4. So I'm going to say my first number is a 3 because it was right in between 2 and 4. It was not 2, it was not 4, right in between. I'm going to say my second number is 29. Then my third number is a 1, 1, 1. Now this is 3. This is 13. This is 3. This is 4. This is 3. This is 1. This is 4. This is 13. And this is 1. I'm getting the numbers from where do they match? Where's the highest point of my graph reflected on the left side? Okay, so now that I have those numbers, I'm just going to add my numbers. So 3 plus 29 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 13 plus 3 plus 4 plus 3 plus 1 plus 4, 13 plus 1. I happen to get, on my calculator, I happen to get 80. Like I said, I added all my numbers. And I'm going to divide this by 14 because there's 14 numbers. So when I divide this by 14, it gives me 5.714. My last number is too small, so my answer is 5.71. Now, when I look at question number 9, this number is 15. This number is 4. This number is 3. This number is 6. So you guys can see we have the same idea. I'm just going to add my numbers. I'm using a calculator in this case. When I add my numbers, I get 110. I'm going to divide by how many graphs I see, how many bars. There happens to be 15. So I type in my calculator 110 divided by 15, and I get 7.333. My third decimal place is too small, so I ignore it. And I'm just going to call this 7.33. All right, so let me take a recap of how you're going to see information. You can see it as a list. I have this in question number 10. You can see it as a table, question number 11. You can see it as plots, so points, like number 12. And you can see it as a graph, as a bar. You guys see that in number 13. Always just add the numbers. So looking at question number 10, I'm just going to add my numbers. 309,800. I know the numbers are kind of big, but we have the use of calculator, so we can always use a calculator to add these. So I'm just going to add my numbers. And according to my calculator, 5,116,100. Like I said, I added all my numbers, and that's what my calculator gave me. I'm going to divide this by how many numbers I have. I happen to have 16 numbers. So when I do that, according to my calculator, I have 319,756.25. It already gave it to me in 2 decimal places. My answers, I'm rounding it to 2 decimal places if necessary. So I'm okay with that. 2 decimal places. Looking at question number 11, the table. I'm just focusing on my numbers. So I'm going to add them all up. And I happen to have 392.6. Like I said, I'm using a calculator here. I'm typing those in, and I'm going to divide this by how many numbers I have. Happen to have 15 of them. 392.6 divided by 15, according to my calculator, is 26.173. My third decimal place is too small because it's 4 or less, so I'm going to ignore it. My answer is 26.70. Looking at example number 12. I have 6 3 times. So I'm going to go 6 plus 6 plus 6. I have 7 8 times. So I'll make sure I add 7 8 times. I'm going to add all my numbers. I'm using a calculator here with me. I happen to have 116. So I added my numbers. I'm going to divide this by how many dots I see there. I happen to see 16 of them. So my calculator, I'm typing in 116 divided by 16. And it tells me 7.25. I have it as 2 decimal places, so I'm good to go. Now here on the last one, I'm comparing Atlantic hurricanes. My first bar goes up to 4. Remember, my numbered is what shows on the left. My second one goes up to 3. Notice how each line now goes by once. On the left, you see how my numbers increase by once. My third numbered is 6, and so on and so forth. If you add all your numbers, like I'm using a calculator with me, if I add all my numbers, I happen to have 85. Say I added all my numbers. I'm going to divide this by how many graphs I see, how many bars. There's 15 of them. So 85 divided by 15, according to my calculator, is 5 point. I'm just going to write my first 3 decimal places. Now my third decimal place is big enough. Remember, big is 5 or more. It's big enough, so that means it pushes my previous number up. So instead of writing 5.66, I'm going to call this 5.67.